Okay, so you're ready to interview for a secondary school science teacher position.
Awesome.
We've got some RoleCatcher resources here to help you nail it.
Yeah.
So think of this as your deep dive into interview prep.
Right.
We're going to break down common questions
Uh,
and reveal what those interviewers are really looking for,
okay.
and even show you how RoleCatcher can help you tailor those answers like a pro.
Being prepared and confident is key.
Right.
We want to equip you with the knowledge and strategies to really help you stand out.
For sure. And speaking of standing out, one of the best things about RoleCatcher is the AI-powered tailoring.
Oh, yeah.
It actually helps you customize your resume and those interview answers to match the specific requirements of each job you apply for.
It's like having a personal career coach in your pocket,
I know, right?
like analyzing each job description and highlighting keywords and skills.
It's amazing. But before we get too far into that, let's talk about what a secondary school science teacher actually does every day.
Well, you're not just a science whiz. You're an educational rock star.
Yeah.
Think lesson planning, teaching engaging classes, working with those students one-on-one,
Wow.
and then also assessing their knowledge through assignments and tests.
Okay, so it's not just knowing your science. It's about knowing how to teach it.
Absolutely. And how to stay ahead of the curve.
Right.
So, the career guide. Science Teacher Secondary School highlights how technology is really transforming the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Think interactive whiteboards, educational software,
Yeah.
even virtual labs.
With virtual labs.
Yeah, creating these immersive learning experiences.
I wish my science classes were that cool.
Right.
All right, so now that we have a sense of the job, let's get into some of those interview questions.
Okay.
So we have 9 sample questions from the interview guide, Science Teacher Secondary School, that we're going to break down for you.
These are really common questions that you're likely to face.
Right.
So being prepared with good answers can make all the difference.
Exactly. And remember, RoleCatcher can give you AI feedback on those answers,
That's right.
which is super helpful for fine-tuning them. Yeah, it's like having a mock interview with an expert.
Totally. Okay, question number 1. Can you tell us about your teaching experience?
Okay.
So this seems pretty straightforward,
Okay.
but I'm guessing there's a little bit more to it than just listing your past teaching gigs.
You're right. You want to showcase your passion for science education and highlight those experiences that have really shaped you as a teacher.
So what are those interviewers really looking for with this question?
Well, they want to see the depth and relevance of your experience. So
Okay.
have you taught science before?
Okay.
What age groups? What teaching methods have you used? They're looking for evidence that you can engage students and explain those complex concepts really clearly
Right.
and create a really positive learning environment.
Gotcha. So it's not just the what, it's the how.
For sure.
What are some common pitfalls to avoid when answering this question?
Don't just list your roles
Right.
or responsibilities, but focus on the impact. How did you engage students? What were your successes?
Okay.
And avoid talking about irrelevant teaching experiences.
Okay.
So they want to see your passion for science education.
All right. So let's say you've had experience teaching science. How would you frame your answer to really make it stand out?
Well, you can start by highlighting your most relevant teaching experiences. Mention those specific science subjects you've taught and the age groups that you've worked with.
Okay.
Talk about your success in engaging those students, maybe using anecdotes or specific examples.
Oh.
And if you have any experience with diverse learners, definitely mention that.
So paint a picture of yourself as a passionate and effective science educator.
Yes.
Can you give me a sample response that I can adapt for my own experience?
Sure, you could say something like, I've been teaching science for the past 5 years, primarily focusing on biology and chemistry at the high school level. I'm really passionate about making science come alive for students, so I incorporate a lot of hands-on activities, experiments, and real-world examples into my lessons. In my previous role, I noticed that some students were really struggling with those abstract concepts, so I started using interactive simulations and 3D models, which significantly improved their understanding and engagement.
That's a great example.
Right.
It highlights relevant experience, teaching methods,
Yeah.
and how to adapt to student needs.
And it showcases your passion for science education.
Totally. Enthusiasm is contagious.
It is.
Okay. On to question number 2. How would you differentiate your teaching methods for students with different learning needs?
Okay.
This feels like a minefield to me. What's the interviewer really after here?
Well, we're assessing your understanding of differentiated instruction and your ability to create an inclusive classroom. So where every student can thrive,
Gotcha.
it's about recognizing that students learn in different ways
Right.
and tailoring your teaching to meet those individual needs.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
No.
How do you approach a question like this without falling into the trap of making generalizations?
Focus on concrete examples.
Okay.
So talk about specific strategies you've used to differentiate instruction. Mention using visual aids for visual learners.
Okay.
Providing hands-on activities for kinesthetic learners. Offering different levels of scaffolding for students who need that extra support.
Okay.
Or even allowing students to choose how they demonstrate their understanding.
So being flexible and
Yeah.
responsive.
Exactly.
What are some common mistakes to watch out for when answering this question?
Definitely avoid vague statements.
Okay.
Like, I treat all students equally.
Right.
Or I use different techniques.
Mm-hmm.
But be specific.
Okay.
Illustrate your approach with real classroom scenarios.
Gotcha.
And don't forget to mention how you use assessments to identify learning gaps and tailor your instruction accordingly.
Okay, give me that killer example response that our listeners can use.
How about this? I believe in creating a learning environment where every student can succeed. I use a variety of assessments to identify students' strengths and areas for growth. For visual learners, I might incorporate diagrams, videos, or even 3D models.
Okay.
For kinesthetic learners, I might plan hands-on activities or experiments.
Right.
I also use flexible grouping, allowing students to work independently, in pairs, or small groups, depending on the task and their learning preferences.
Well, that's comprehensive.
Yay.
It really showcases your understanding of differentiation and commitment to all learners. Before we get to our next question, I want to talk about something I saw in the career guide that really stood out to me.
Oh, you mean like the pros and cons of being a secondary school science teacher?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's important to be aware of the rewards and the challenges.
I was really struck by the importance of staying up to date with new teaching technologies.
Yeah.
It's not just about knowing your subject matter, but also about being tech savvy.
It's a crucial aspect of modern teaching.
Absolutely. And speaking of modern tools, RoleCatcher's AI can really be a game changer
It can.
when it comes to preparing for interviews.
Absolutely.
It's like having a personal coach in your pocket.
Right.
RoleCatcher analyzes job descriptions to help you tailor your resume and interview answers to highlight the specific skills and experiences they're looking for.
It's a really cool tool.
Okay, back to our questions. Question number 3. Can you describe your approach to creating lesson plans?
Okay.
I feel like this one is all about organization.
Yes.
Yes.
Structure. It's about demonstrating that you have a really clear and thoughtful process for planning those engaging and effective lessons.
Okay, so how do you walk them through your approach without sounding too robotic?
Well, think of it as telling a story about your lesson planning journey.
Okay.
Start by emphasizing those learning objectives. What should students be able to do at the end of a lesson? Then you can explain how you choose those activities and assessments to support those objectives.
So start with why and then move to how.
Exactly.
What are some common pitfalls to avoid?
Definitely avoid getting lost in the weeds of those specific lesson plans.
Yeah.
Focus on the overall strategy and your alignment with the school's curriculum guidelines.
Gotcha. So show that you're grounded in educational best practices and adaptable to different contexts.
Exactly.
Okay, give me a great example response.
How about this? My lesson planning always starts with identifying clear learning goals based on curriculum standards. Then I consider the diverse learning styles in my classroom, and I choose a variety of engaging activities, like experiments, group discussions, debates, or even multimedia presentations.
Gotcha.
I also incorporate formative assessments throughout the lesson to gauge understanding and adjust my teaching as needed.
That covers all the bases.
It does.
Thoughtful, structured approach while emphasizing engagement and assessments, which are key. Now on to question number 4. Can you describe a time when you had to handle a challenging student behavior in your classroom? Okay. Ooh, this one can be tricky.
It can.
What are they really trying to figure out here?
Well, they're assessing your classroom management skills.
Right.
And your ability to maintain that positive and productive learning environment, even when you're faced with challenging behavior.
So it's about staying cool under pressure.
Yeah.
How do you answer this without making it seem like your classroom is a battleground?
Be prepared with a specific example that demonstrates your problem-solving skills and your ability to maintain a positive and supportive relationship with those students.
So choose your example wisely.
Yeah.
What are the big no-nos?
Avoid negativity.
Okay.
Don't badmouth the student or previous colleagues, and don't dwell on the negative.
Okay.
Instead, focus on your positive actions and the positive outcomes.
So turn a negative situation into a positive.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm ready for that example response.
How about this? I once had a student who was frequently off task and disruptive during class.
Okay.
I decided to speak with the student privately to better understand what was going on. It turned out that the student was feeling overwhelmed by the workload and was having trouble staying focused.
Okay.
Together, we came up with a plan to help the student manage their time more effectively and to break down those assignments into smaller chunks.
Gotcha.
I also provided the student with some extra support during class, and we communicated regularly with their parents to keep them informed of the student's progress.
Okay.
Over time, the student's behavior improved significantly, and they became an active and engaged participant in class.
That's a great example of a positive and proactive approach.
Right.
So you address the behavior while maintaining that supportive relationship with the student and involving their parents in the solution.
Exactly.
Before we move to our next question, I want to go back to the career guide, Science Teacher Secondary School, for a second. And I found it particularly insightful when they mentioned the different career stages.
Oh, yes. It's a fascinating roadmap.
Yeah.
That shows how you can grow and develop over time.
From entry level to senior science teacher.
And as you gain that experience, you take on more responsibilities, like mentoring new teachers or even leading departmental meetings.
It's a great reminder that there's always room to grow and advance.
Absolutely. And speaking of potential, I think we should mention again how RoleCatcher can really help you unlock yours by tailoring your answers for specific job roles.
It's all about making that application stand out.
It is.
RoleCatcher's AI analyzes the job description and helps you highlight those skills and experiences that are most relevant to the specific role.
Really powerful.
And don't forget the AI feedback
Yes.
on your practice answers.
Exactly.
Okay, question number 5. How do you incorporate technology into your science curriculum?
Okay.
I'm guessing it's more than just listing all the cool tools that you've used.
You're right. Interviewers want to see that you're not just tech savvy, but that you know how to use that technology effectively to really enhance student learning.
So it's not about the tech itself, it's about the why behind it.
Exactly.
Right.
Focus on the why behind those choices.
Okay.
How does the technology help students learn more effectively? How does it support your teaching goals?
Okay, so how do you showcase your tech integration skills without sounding like you're just reading a list?
Think about specific examples where technology has made a real difference in your teaching or your students' learning. Maybe you use virtual simulations to help those students visualize abstract concepts, or you use an online platform to facilitate collaborative projects.
Those are great examples. What are some common mistakes to avoid?
Don't just list every tech tool that you've ever used. Instead, be selective. Focus on the tools that have really had the most impact. And be sure to tie those examples back to the specific subjects that you're going to be teaching.
Okay, I'm ready for a stellar example.
Okay, how about this? I believe that technology can be a really powerful tool for engaging students and deepening their understanding of science. In my biology class, I've used virtual dissection software.
Oh, wow.
To allow students to explore anatomy without the need for physical specimens.
Okay.
This addresses ethical concerns and allows students to repeat it as many times as they need to master the concepts.
Right.
I've also used online simulations to allow students to safely experiment with different chemical reactions in my chemistry class, which encourages inquiry-based learning and problem-solving skills.
That's a great example. It shows that you're using the technology intentionally to achieve specific learning goals. Okay, let's move on to question number 6. Can you describe your experience teaching students with diverse cultural backgrounds? This one's all about inclusivity and cultural responsiveness.
Yes, recognizing that students come from different backgrounds and cultures, and bringing those perspectives into the classroom to really create a richer and more inclusive learning experience.
What are they really looking for here?
They want to know if you've created a welcoming and inclusive learning environment for all students, regardless of their cultural backgrounds. It's about demonstrating your awareness of those cultural differences and your ability to adapt your teaching.
Okay, so how do you approach this question authentically?
Well, focus on specific examples
Okay.
of how you've incorporated that cultural awareness into your teaching.
Right.
Maybe you've used diverse examples in your lessons, invited guest speakers from different backgrounds, or even created opportunities for those students to share their cultural experiences and perspectives.
So actively creating an inclusive environment.
Yes.
Where everyone feels valued.
Absolutely.
What are some common mistakes that you see people making with this question?
Making assumptions about students based on their cultural background. And don't just say, I treat all students the same, because that doesn't really acknowledge the unique needs and perspectives that students from diverse cultures bring to the classroom.
Okay, so acknowledge and celebrate that diversity.
Yeah.
Give me a good example response.
Okay, how about this? In my previous school, I had a very diverse student body, which I saw as a tremendous asset. I made it a priority to incorporate multicultural perspectives into my science lessons.
Okay.
For example, when teaching about genetics, we explored the concept of ancestry DNA testing.
Oh, wow.
And we discussed how migration patterns have influenced genetic diversity around the world.
Okay.
I also encouraged students to share their own family histories and cultural traditions related to science, which led to some really fascinating discussions and broadened everyone's understanding.
So you're not just teaching science, you're teaching students how to think critically about science in a global context.
Yeah.
Now, before we get to another question, I want to mention something that RoleCatcher offers that can be really helpful.
Oh, okay.
Preparing for these types of questions. The Interview Questions Repository.
Oh, it's an amazing resource.
Yeah.
Think of it as a treasure trove of interview questions organized by career and skill.
You can find questions that are specific to the secondary school science teacher role.
Right.
As well as questions about general teaching competencies.
It's a fantastic way to practice your answers and get comfortable with the types of questions that you're likely to encounter.
Okay, question number 7. Can you describe your approach to assessing student learning?
Okay.
I feel like this one's all about the different ways to measure student progress.
It is.
Okay.
It's about demonstrating your understanding of different assessment methods and your ability to use that assessment data to really inform your teaching.
So it's not just about giving tests and grading papers. It's about thoughtfully using assessments.
Absolutely. Talk about using a variety of methods, both formative and summative. Formative assessments are those ongoing checks for understanding that you do during a lesson.
Okay.
And summative are the formal ones that you use at the end.
So use the right tool for the right purpose.
Exactly.
What are some common mistakes to avoid?
Avoid focusing solely on traditional tests and grades. Because assessment's about more than just a letter or a number.
Right.
It's about understanding what they know and how to help them grow.
So it's about learning, not just the evaluation.
Yes.
Give me an awesome example response.
How about this? I believe in using a variety of assessment methods to really get a complete picture of student learning. I use formative assessments like exit tickets, quick writes, or even thumbs up, thumbs down checks to quickly gauge student understanding during a lesson.
Okay.
This helps me adjust my teaching on the fly.
Gotcha.
And make sure everyone's on track. I also use summative assessments like unit tests, projects, lab reports to evaluate learning at the end of a unit.
Right.
And I always make sure to provide students with detailed feedback on their work.
Okay.
Highlighting their strengths and areas for growth.
That's a great example.
Right.
Before we dive into the next question, I want to talk about RoleCatcher again.
Okay.
Which offers AI-powered feedback.
Oh, yes.
On practice answers.
It's a very helpful tool.
It is. Okay, question number 8. Can you describe a time when you had to collaborate with another teacher or department to enhance student learning?
Right.
This one's all about teamwork.
Yes. Showcasing your ability to work with others to create those meaningful learning experiences.
So what are they looking for here?
Choosing a goal that demonstrates your ability to communicate clearly, share ideas, and be open to feedback.
Okay.
Describe a situation where you collaborated with others to achieve a shared goal related to student learning.
Okay, so choose an example where collaboration really made a difference.
Absolutely.
Okay. What are some don'ts when answering this question?
Avoid taking all the credit because collaboration is about teamwork.
Right.
So emphasize the contributions of others and how you work together to achieve that common goal.
And don't focus on negativity or conflict.
Yeah.
Instead, highlight the positive aspects.
Okay, so focus on the positive and celebrate teamwork.
Yes.
All right, give me that winning example response.
How about this? In my previous role, I collaborated with the math department to develop an interdisciplinary unit on data analysis.
Okay.
We noticed that students were struggling to apply those mathematical concepts to real-world science data. So we worked together to create lessons that integrated math and science content.
Okay.
Providing students with opportunities to practice data analysis skills in both subjects. This collaboration resulted in a significant improvement in student understanding of both math and science concepts.
And it helped them see the connections between the two subjects.
That's a great example.
It is.
It demonstrates a clear understanding of the benefits of collaboration and the positive outcomes that came from working together.
Yes.
Before we move to the next question, I want to talk about tailoring your interview answers again to those specific job roles.
Right.
And RoleCatcher is amazing for that.
It is, imagine having an AI tool that analyzes the job description and identifies the key skills and experience that the employer is looking for.
It's like a cheat sheet for your interview.
It is. RoleCatcher's AI does exactly that.
Right.
It helps you integrate those key skills and keywords into your answers.
Okay, and don't forget the AI feedback. So you can practice and get those specific suggestions for improvement.
Very helpful tool.
It is. Okay, question number 9. Can you describe a time when you used differentiated instruction to meet the needs of students with disabilities? This one is all about showing your commitment to inclusive education.
Absolutely. Interviewers want to see that you're knowledgeable about different learning disabilities and that you can adapt your teaching to meet the individual needs of students with disabilities.
Where you're creating a learning environment where all students can access the curriculum and achieve their full potential.
Exactly. It's about showcasing your ability to work collaboratively with special education professionals, parents, and even the student themselves to create that really supportive and inclusive learning experience.
So how do you approach this question and really demonstrate your experience with differentiated instruction for students with disabilities?
Share a specific example of how you've adapted your teaching to meet the needs of a student with a disability. Be detailed, but be mindful. Avoid using any language that could identify the student or violate their privacy.
So choose your example carefully and focus on the strategies you used, not the student's personal information.
Absolutely.
What are some common pitfalls to avoid with this question?
Avoid making assumptions about students with disabilities or their capabilities, and don't focus on the challenges, but instead highlight their strengths and the positive impact that your differentiated instruction had on their learning.
So focus on the positive and empower the student.
Yes.
Give me a great example response.
How about this? In my previous role, I worked with a student who had dyslexia. This student was incredibly bright and engaged, but they were having difficulty keeping up with the reading and writing demands of the science curriculum. So I worked closely with the student, their parents, and the school's special education team to develop an individualized education program that included accommodations like providing audiobooks and text-to-speech software, allowing extra time for assignments, and using graphic organizers and visual aid to support their understanding of those more complex concepts. These accommodations allowed the student to access the curriculum and participate fully in class, and I was so proud of the progress that they made.
That's a fantastic example.
It is.
It really demonstrates your commitment to inclusive education and your ability to work collaboratively to create a supportive and empowering learning environment for all students.
Absolutely.
And that brings us to the end of part 1
of our deep dive
into secondary school science teacher interview prep.
We've covered a lot of ground, but we have even more to cover in part 2.
We do. Stay tuned for part 2.
We'll be right back.
We will. There's so much more to unpack when it comes to these interview questions.
For sure. So let's jump right back into the interview guide, Science Teacher Secondary School. With question number 10. What strategies would you use to create a positive and supportive learning environment in your classroom? This feels like it's all about setting the stage for success. It's about demonstrating that you've thought about the classroom culture that you want to create and the strategies you'll use to foster a positive and productive experience.
Okay, so what are the key ingredients for that kind of environment? What are those interviewers really hoping to hear?
They want to see that you understand the importance of things like clear communication,
Okay.
mutual respect, a sense of community, and a growth mindset.
Right.
They want to know how you'll build rapport with
Right.
your students, establish clear expectations, and create a safe space where everyone feels comfortable participating and asking questions.
So it's about creating that sense of psychological safety.
Yes.
Where those students feel supported and encouraged to learn.
Absolutely.
Okay. But how do you convey all of that without sounding too generic or idealistic?
Actionable strategies are key.
Okay.
Instead of just saying, I'll be respectful,
Right.
talk about specific ways you'll demonstrate respect, like actively listening to your students,
Okay.
valuing their opinions, providing constructive feedback, and addressing their concerns.
Okay.
Instead of just saying, I'll create a positive learning environment,
Right.
you can talk about the steps you'll take.
So get specific and paint a picture
Yeah,
of what that positive and supportive classroom looks like.
for sure.
What are some common pitfalls that you want to avoid here?
Definitely don't overemphasize strict rules and punishments.
Okay.
Because while structure and boundaries are really important, interviewers want to see that you're focused on building relationships, fostering intrinsic motivation, and creating that learning community where students feel valued.
Got it. So be firm but fair.
Yes.
High expectations.
Yeah.
While also providing the support students need to meet those expectations.
Exactly.
All right. I'm ready for a great example response.
Here's an idea. I believe in creating a classroom environment where students feel safe, supported, and empowered to take risks.
Yep.
I'll start by co-creating classroom norms with my students so that they have a sense of ownership over their learning space.
Right.
I'll emphasize mutual respect, open communication, and a growth mindset. I'll provide regular opportunities for students to collaborate and learn from each other, building a strong sense of community.
Gotcha.
And I'll be approachable and supportive, letting my students know that I'm there to help them succeed.
I love that response.
Yeah.
It paints a picture of a classroom where those students feel valued and supported. Before we move on, I want to circle back to something we talked about earlier.
Okay.
With RoleCatcher's AI-powered features.
Oh, yeah. The AI tailoring for resumes and interview answers is a game changer.
Tell me how that magic works.
You simply upload your resume and the job description, and RoleCatcher's AI analyzes both documents, identifying those key skills and experience that the employer is looking for.
Right.
And then it suggests specific ways to tailor your resume and interview answers to highlight those key elements.
That's amazing.
Right.
So it takes all the guesswork out of tailoring those materials.
Yeah.
And RoleCatcher also provides AI feedback on those interview answers, so you can practice and get personalized suggestions.
Very useful.
It is. Okay. Are you ready to dive into our next interview question?
Yes, I am.
Question number 11. How would you assess and address the diverse learning needs of your students?
Okay.
And this one feels like it's all about differentiated instruction again.
It is.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that students learn in different ways and at different paces.
Right.
And demonstrating your ability to tailor your teaching to meet those individual needs.
So flexibility and responsiveness are key here.
They are.
How do you showcase your differentiation superpowers without getting too jargony?
Focus on specific strategies and real-world examples.
Okay.
Talk about the different types of learners and how you might adjust your teaching to meet those needs.
Okay.
For example, you might provide visual learners with graphic organizers or concept maps, while kinesthetic learners might benefit from hands-on activities or experiments.
Great examples. It's about creating that learning experience
Yeah.
that really caters to those needs.
Exactly.
What are some mistakes that people make when answering this question?
Avoid making generalizations about students or their learning styles. Instead, talk about how you use a variety of assessments to identify student learning needs, and then use that data to plan those differentiated lessons.
So don't just say, I'll differentiate my instruction.
Right.
Be specific about it.
Exactly.
Give those real-world examples.
Yes.
Okay, I'm ready for a really good example response.
All right, how about this? I believe that every student has the potential to succeed, and it's my job as a teacher to create a learning environment that supports their individual needs.
Okay.
I'll start by using a variety of assessments to get a baseline understanding of each student's strengths and areas for growth. Then I'll use that information to differentiate my instruction by offering different levels of scaffolding, providing choice in learning activities, and using those flexible grouping strategies.
Okay.
For example, if I'm teaching a unit on cell biology, I might provide students with different levels of reading materials.
Okay.
Offer them the choice of creating a model or writing a report.
Gotcha.
And allow them to work independently or in small groups based on their preferences and the task at hand.
So it's really about showing that you understand differentiation?
Yes.
And that you're committed to inclusive learning.
Exactly.
Before we move on to the next question, I want to go back to the career guide, Science Teacher Secondary School.
Okay.
And I found it really interesting when they talked about continuous professional development.
Oh, yeah. It's important to stay up to date.
Right. Teaching is a lifelong journey.
It is.
It's not just about getting that teaching certification.
No, it's about staying current
Right.
with the latest research.
Right.
Pedagogical practices and educational technology.
The world of education is always evolving.
Always.
And it's important to be a lifelong learner.
Yes.
And speaking of embracing new ideas,
Yeah.
RoleCatcher can be really useful here.
It can.
Because it's like having a personalized coach.
Right.
RoleCatcher's platform provides access to a vast library of resources, including career guides, skill guides, and interview guides, all designed to help you stay informed.
And inspired.
Yeah. And the AI tailoring
Yes.
and feedback features really help customize your learning experience.
Really powerful.
It is. Okay, are you ready for another interview question?
Let's do it.
Question number 12. How would you incorporate inquiry-based learning into your science lessons?
Okay.
This feels like it's all about student-led exploration.
It's about moving away from that traditional sage on the stage model of teaching.
Okay.
And embracing a more hands-on, student-centered approach that encourages those students to ask questions, to experiment, analyze data, and draw their own conclusions.
So turning those students into scientists.
Exactly. Inquiry-based learning is all about fostering curiosity, critical thinking, problem-solving skills. It's about guiding students through that process of scientific inquiry, not giving them the answers.
Okay, so how do you show them you understand that without being too theoretical?
You have to be specific.
Right.
Talk about concrete strategies you've used or plan to use to incorporate inquiry into those lessons. Mention posing open-ended questions, designing experiments, facilitating student-led investigations, encouraging collaboration and discussion.
So setting the stage for that inquiry, what are some mistakes to avoid?
Avoid vague statements like, I'll let students explore, or I'll encourage them to ask questions.
Okay.
Be very clear about your role as the facilitator of learning, providing that guidance and support, while allowing students to take ownership.
Got it. So be specific.
Yes.
Intentional. And make those connections to the curriculum.
For sure.
Okay. I'm ready for another great example response.
All right. How about this? I believe that inquiry-based learning is essential for fostering a deep and lasting understanding of science.
Okay.
In my classroom, I'll create opportunities for students to engage in authentic scientific inquiry by posing open-ended questions that spark curiosity, designing experiments to test hypotheses, and analyzing data to draw conclusions.
Right.
For example, when teaching about the properties of matter, I might challenge students to design an experiment to determine the density of different objects. I would guide them through that process of data collection, analysis, and interpretation, but I would encourage them to take ownership of the experiment and to draw their own conclusions.
That's a fantastic response. It shows that you really understand inquiry-based learning. Now, before we move on, I want to highlight something from the career guide again.
Okay.
And it's the point about staying up to date with scientific advancements.
Oh, yes. Science is always evolving.
Yeah.
And it's really important for science teachers to be on the cutting edge, bringing those real-world discoveries and breakthroughs into the classroom.
Yeah, make science come alive for those students.
Exactly.
Show them that it's not just a textbook.
Yes.
But a dynamic and evolving field.
For sure.
And speaking of resources that can help you stay up to date, RoleCatcher's right there.
It is.
Because it's like a personal professional development hub. RoleCatcher provides access to a vast library of career guides, skill guides, and interview guides, all designed to help you stay informed.
And inspired.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the AI tailoring and feedback features
Yes.
really make it easy to customize your learning.
Very powerful.
Okay, let's dive into another interview question. Question number 13. How would you differentiate your teaching methods for students with different learning styles?
Okay.
And this might sound familiar because we talked about differentiation earlier.
Yes, we did.
But this one is specifically focused on learning styles.
Right.
So we need to unpack that a little bit.
It's about demonstrating your understanding of the different ways students learn
Right.
and your ability to create a learning environment that caters to those diverse needs.
So some students might learn best through visuals, while others might benefit from a hands-on approach.
Exactly. And some students might prefer to work independently while others excel in those collaborative settings.
Okay, so how do you showcase your differentiation expertise without making those generalizations about learning styles?
Focus on specific strategies
Dope.
and concrete examples.
Wow.
Talk about how you use a variety of learning activities,
Right.
flexible grouping, and choice boards
Oh, yeah.
to create that learning experience that's really responsive.
So be intentional and thoughtful.
For sure.
What are some common mistakes to avoid?
Avoid making sweeping statements
Okay.
about learning styles, like saying all visual learners need to see information presented visually,
Right.
or all kinesthetic learners need to be moving.
Okay.
Remember, learning styles are just preferences, and students can benefit from a variety of learning experiences.
So be mindful of overgeneralizing.
Yes.
Be specific and adaptable.
For sure.
All right, give me a winning response.
Okay, how about this? I believe in creating a learning environment where all students can thrive regardless of their learning styles.
Okay.
I'll use a variety of strategies to differentiate my teaching, including incorporating visual aids, hands-on activities, and movement breaks into my lessons.
Okay.
I'll also provide students with choice boards, allowing them to choose how they want to learn and demonstrate their understanding.
Yep.
For example, if I'm teaching a unit on the solar system, I might offer students the choice of creating a model,
Okay.
writing a report, giving a presentation, or even designing a game to demonstrate their learning. This allows students to choose activities that align with their strengths and interests
Right.
while still meeting the learning objectives.
So really showcasing a deep understanding of differentiation and a commitment to creating an inclusive and engaging learning environment.
Absolutely.
Now, before we move on, I want to circle back to something we talked about earlier about the importance of staying up to date with those teaching technologies.
Oh, yeah. It's crucial for teachers to be tech savvy
Yeah.
and to embrace the power of technology to enhance that teaching and learning experience.
We'll bring those 21st century skills into the classroom. And RoleCatcher's platform is an invaluable resource for exploring those technologies.
It is.
It's like having a personalized tech support team.
Right.
For
Your
you.
teaching career.
RoleCatcher provides access to a vast library of resources,
Yes.
including skill guides and career guides that cover the latest educational technologies and teaching methods.
Very helpful.
And the AI can help personalize that learning.
Absolutely.
Okay, are you ready for another interview question?
Let's do it.
All right, question number 14. How would you handle a situation where a student was consistently disruptive in class?
Okay.
This one can be a little daunting,
Yeah.
but it's important to be prepared for.
It is.
So classroom management's a key skill for any teacher.
Absolutely.
Right.
And interviewers want to see that you can handle challenging behavior effectively while also maintaining that positive and supportive learning environment.
So finding that balance
Yes.
between being firm and being fair.
Yeah.
How do you walk that tightrope in your answer?
Focus on a proactive and positive approach.
Okay.
So instead of jumping to punishments,
Right.
talk about strategies like establishing clear expectations, building rapport with students, using positive reinforcement,
Right.
and communicating effectively with those parents.
So thinking about it holistically
Yes?
and focusing on a positive and supportive environment,
Right.
not just punishing.
Absolutely.
What are some mistakes to avoid here?
Avoid sounding authoritarian
Okay.
or punitive because interviewers want to see that you can handle this
Right.
while also maintaining a positive and respectful relationship.
Okay, so choose your words carefully.
Yeah.
Show empathy and focus on solutions,
Exactly.
not punishments.
Yes.
Okay, give me an example response.
How about this? I believe in creating a classroom environment where all students feel safe, respected, and supported.
Okay.
I'll start by establishing clear expectations for behavior at the beginning of the year
Right.
and reinforcing those expectations consistently throughout the year.
Okay.
If a student is consistently disruptive, I'll first try to address the behavior privately, speaking with the student one-on-one, to understand what might be causing the disruption.
Yeah.
I'll work with the student to develop strategies to help them stay focused and engaged in class.
Right.
I'll also communicate with parents or guardians to keep them informed of the student's progress and to collaborate on a plan to support the student's success.
That's a great example of a thoughtful and proactive approach to classroom management.
Yes.
Emphasizing communication,
Yes.
collaboration, and student support.
For sure.
Before we move on to the next question, I want to emphasize tailoring your interview answers and resume again.
Okay.
And RoleCatcher can help you do that.
It can.
RoleCatcher's AI tailoring features are a game changer for job seekers.
They are.
It's like a career strategist.
Right.
Analyzing job descriptions.
Yeah.
Identifying those key skills and experiences that the employer is looking for.
Yeah.
And helping you highlight those elements in your application materials.
Really powerful.
Don't forget about the AI feedback.
Oh, yes. It's very helpful.
So you can practice and get those specific suggestions.
It's a really cool tool.
It is LD. Okay, are you ready for the next interview question?
Yes.
Question number 15. How would you incorporate current events and real-world issues into your science lessons?
Okay.
This is all about showing you can make science relevant
Yes.
and engaging for your students.
You got it.
Connecting it
Yes.
to their lives and the world around them.
Exactly. Show them that science isn't just a subject in school,
Right.
but a force that's really shaping our world.
So bring that relevance into the classroom.
Yeah.
Make science exciting.
It is.
Okay, so how do you do that in your answer?
Focus on those specific examples.
Okay.
Talk about how you've used or plan to use current events, news articles, real-world case studies to illustrate those scientific concepts and spark student discussion. You could mention incorporating climate change into a lesson on the carbon cycle or discussing the ethical implications of genetic engineering in a biology class.
What are some mistakes to avoid here?
Avoid being overly controversial or political while it's important to address real-world issues.
Right.
The focus should always be on the science and its applications.
So stay focused on the science and keep it relevant to the curriculum.
Exactly.
Okay, give me that winning example response.
Okay, how about this? I believe in making science relevant and engaging for students by connecting it to their lives and the world around them. I'll incorporate current events and real-world issues into my lessons by using news articles, case studies, documentaries, and multimedia resources to illustrate those scientific concepts and to spark discussions. For example, when teaching about renewable energy, I might have students research the pros and cons of different renewable energy sources and discuss the challenges and opportunities associated with transitioning to a more sustainable energy future.
Gotcha.
This not only brings science to life, but also helps students develop critical thinking skills and become informed citizens.
I love that example.
It's a good one.
It really shows you to understand the importance of making science engaging.
Yes.
Now, before we move on, I want to highlight a point from the career guide. Science Teachers Secondary School.
Okay.
That stood out to me. The section about fostering a love of science in students.
Oh, yes. That's at the heart of it all, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not just about teaching those scientific facts.
No.
It's about inspiring them to explore and question.
Absolutely ignite that spark of curiosity.
Exactly.
That can last a lifetime.
And speaking of resources that can do that,
yes,
we have RoleCatcher.
We do.
Which is an amazing platform for both aspiring and experienced educators.
Yes.
It's like having a professional development library.
It is.
Right at your fingertips.
RoleCatcher provides access to thousands of career guides, skill guides, and interview guides.
Yeah.
All designed to help you navigate your career journey with confidence.
Right.
And to stay inspired.
And the AI features really help personalize that learning experience.
It's a great tool.
Okay, let's dive into another interview question.
Right.
Question number 16. How would you assess student understanding of scientific concepts?
Okay.
This feels like it's all about showing, how to use assessments effectively.
You're right.
Okay.
It's about demonstrating your understanding of different assessment methods and your ability to use a variety of strategies to gather that information about student learning and to inform your teaching.
So it's not just about giving tests.
No.
It's about using a range of tools.
Yes. Both formative assessments, which are those ongoing checks for understanding, and summative assessments, which are more formal evaluations.
Okay. So you use the right tool for the right purpose.
Exactly.
But how do you showcase your expertise here?
talk about using a mix of assessment methods.
Okay.
Like quizzes, projects, presentations, lab reports, and those class discussions.
Right.
Explain how you use those assessments to gather information about student learning, to provide students with feedback, and to make decisions about your teaching.
So it's a tool for learning, not just for evaluating.
For sure.
What are some mistakes to avoid here?
Avoid focusing solely on traditional tests and grades because they want to see that you're comfortable using a variety of those assessment methods, including more authentic and performance-based assessments that allow those students to demonstrate their understanding in creative and meaningful ways.
So think outside the bubble of those traditional tests.
Yes.
Be specific about those methods and make those connections to the curriculum.
Exactly.
I'm ready for that example response.
All right, how about this? I believe in using a variety of assessment methods to really get a holistic picture of student learning. I'll use formative assessments like exit tickets, quick writes, think, pair, share activities, and thumbs up, thumbs down checks to monitor student understanding during a lesson and adjust my teaching as needed.
Gotcha.
I'll also use summative assessments like unit tests, lab reports, projects, and presentations to evaluate learning at the end of a unit or course. And I'll always make sure to provide students with feedback that's specific, constructive, and actionable, helping them understand their strengths, identify areas for growth, and set goals for future learning.
Gotcha.
When designing assessments, I'll always ensure that they align with those learning objectives and that they provide students with opportunities to demonstrate their understanding in a variety of ways.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
It really shows you understand assessment principles, and you're using a variety of methods. Now, before we move on, I want to touch on something from the career guide. It's often overlooked, but it's really important. And it's the section about creating a safe and inclusive classroom.
Oh, yes. That's the foundation for everything we do as teachers.
Yeah.
Creating a space where all students feel welcome, respected, and supported, regardless of their background, learning style, or ability level.
So foster a sense of belonging. And create a community where everyone feels valued.
Exactly.
And speaking of resources that support inclusion and create those opportunities, we have RoleCatcher.
We do.
It's a great platform.
It is.
For educators committed to creating those equitable and inclusive learning environments.
RoleCatcher provides access to thousands of career guides, skill guides, and interview guides.
Yeah, all designed to help you navigate your career
with confidence
and stay inspired.
Absolutely.
And the AI-powered features really help personalize your learning.
They do.
And connect you with others who are passionate about creating inclusive and equitable learning environments.
Really powerful tool.
It is okay. Are you ready for another interview question?
Bring it on.
Question number 17. Describe a time when you had to adapt your teaching to meet the needs of a student with a disability. This one is all about showing your commitment to inclusive education.
Yes, interviewers want to see that you're knowledgeable about those different disabilities, that you understand the legal and ethical responsibilities associated with inclusive education, and that you're prepared to go the extra mile to support those students.
So creating an environment where all students can access that curriculum and achieve their full potential.
Exactly.
So how do you demonstrate your expertise here without oversharing or violating a student's privacy?
You have to be specific but mindful. Share a real-life example of how you've adapted your teaching, but avoid using any language that could identify the student or violate their confidentiality. Describe the student's disability in general terms. The challenges they face, the accommodations you provided, and the positive outcomes that resulted from your efforts.
So choose your words carefully. And focus on those strategies you used, not the student's personal information. What are some mistakes to avoid here?
Avoid making assumptions about students with disabilities or their capabilities, and don't just focus on the challenges, but instead highlight the student's strengths and the positive impact that your differentiated instruction had on their learning.
So focus on the positive.
Yes.
And empower the student.
For sure.
Give me an example response.
How about this? I believe in creating a learning environment where all students feel supported and empowered to succeed, regardless of their abilities or disabilities. In my previous role, I had a student with ADHD
Mm-hmm.
who struggled to stay focused during lessons.
Okay.
I worked closely with the student, their parents, and the school's special education team to create an individualized education plan
Right.
that outlined specific accommodations
Mm-hmm.
and supports to help the student succeed.
Gotcha.
These accommodations included things like preferential seating, frequent breaks, visual aids, and opportunities to move around and release energy.
Right.
We also worked on developing strategies to help the students stay organized and manage their time effectively.
Mm.
I was so impressed by the students' determination and resilience, and I was so proud of the progress that they made throughout the year.
That's a great example. Really showcases your commitment to inclusive education.
Yes.
And your ability to create a learning environment
Yeah.
that's supportive and empowering for all students.
Absolutely.
Now, before we move on, I want to take a minute
Okay.
to acknowledge the diversity
Yeah.
that exists in our schools
Yes.
and emphasize being culturally responsive as educators,
for sure.
creating classrooms that value
Right.
and celebrate diversity.
It's about recognizing that our students come from different backgrounds, cultures, and experiences,
Right.
and bringing those perspectives into the classroom
Yeah.
to create a richer and more inclusive experience.
It's about fostering a sense of belonging
Yes.
and creating a community where all students feel valued and empowered to learn.
Absolutely.
And speaking of resources that support diversity and inclusion,
Yeah.
we have RoleCatcher.
We do. It's an amazing platform.
It's like a personalized professional development guide
Right.
right at your fingertips.
RoleCatcher provides access to thousands of career guides,
Right.
skill guides,
Uh-huh.
and interview guides.
Right. All designed to help you on your journey
With confidence.
and stay inspired.
And the AI-powered features
Yes.
make it even easier to personalize your learning.
And connect with other educators who are passionate about diversity and inclusion.
Really powerful.
Okay, ready for another interview question?
Let's do it.
Question number 18. How would you promote collaboration and teamwork among your students?
Okay.
This one is all about collaborative learning.
It is. It's
Yeah.
about demonstrating that you can create that classroom environment that fosters teamwork, communication, and problem-solving skills.
So we're moving beyond the traditional model
Yes.
of individual work
Yeah.
and really embracing a more interactive and collaborative approach.
Exactly. Recognizing that students can learn a lot from each other.
Right.
And that working together really enhances their understanding, communication, and problem-solving abilities.
It creates a sense of community,
Yes.
shared purpose.
Mm-hmm.
How do you showcase that in your answer without being too theoretical?
Be specific.
Okay.
Talk about different ways that you've encouraged collaboration in your classroom.
Okay.
Mention things like group projects, think pair share activities,
Right.
peer feedback sessions, collaborative problem-solving tasks.
Okay, so you've really thought about the how-to
For sure.
of collaborative learning.
Absolutely.
What are some common mistakes that people make when answering this question?
Avoid just saying, I'll have students work in groups.
Hmm.
Be more specific
Okay.
about the types of collaborative activities
Yeah.
you'll use
Okay.
and how you'll structure them to be effective.
Gotcha. And make those connections.
Yes.
Back to the curriculum.
For sure.
Give me a winning example response.
All right, how about this? I believe that collaboration is really essential for that deep and meaningful learning.
Okay.
I'll promote collaboration in my classroom by using a variety of strategies, like group projects, peer teaching activities, and online discussion forums.
Okay.
For example, when teaching about the scientific method, I might have students work in small groups to design and conduct an experiment,
Okay.
encouraging them to share ideas, delegate tasks, and support each other. I'll also provide clear guidelines for that collaboration, emphasizing active listening, respectful communication, and equal participation.
I love that response.
Yeah.
It really shows that you understand collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
Now, before we move on, I want to highlight something from the career guide again.
Okay.
And it's the section on maintaining student engagement.
Oh, yes. Keeping students engaged can be challenging.
It can.
Especially in today's world.
It's about making learning fun
Right.
and relevant and meaningful
Absolutely.
and finding ways to spark their curiosity.
Yes.
Keep them excited.
Be creative and innovative.
And speaking of resources that can help with that,
Yeah.
RoleCatcher can help.
It's an amazing platform
Hey,
for educators looking for inspiration,
Right.
support, and connection.
It's like a professional development toolbox.
Right.
Okay.
Right in your pocket.
RoleCatcher gives access to career guides, skill guides, and interview guides, all designed to help you navigate your career
with confidence.
And stay inspired.
And the AI features
make it even easier to personalize your learning.
And connect with other educators.
Who share your passion.
For teaching.
For sure.
Okay, let's jump back into the interview guide, Science Teacher Secondary School.
Okay.
For question number 19. How would you create a culturally responsive classroom environment?
All right.
This one feels like it's about inclusivity and equity.
You're right. It's about demonstrating that you understand the importance of creating a learning environment that really values and celebrates diversity. A space where all students feel seen, heard, and respected.
So bringing those different backgrounds and cultures into the classroom.
Exactly.
So how do you showcase your cultural responsiveness in your answer without making generalizations?
Focus on specific strategies and actions.
Right.
Talk about how you plan to incorporate those diverse perspectives into your curriculum. Use inclusive language. Create opportunities for students to share their cultural experiences and build relationships.
With those families and communities.
So being intentional and proactive.
Yes.
What are some common pitfalls to avoid?
Definitely avoid making assumptions about students based on their race, ethnicity, culture, religion, or any other aspect of their identity. And don't fall into the trap of saying, I treat all students the same. Because that statement ignores the reality that students come from different backgrounds and have different needs and experiences.
Right. So recognizing and honoring those differences.
Absolutely.
While creating an environment where all students feel valued.
Exactly.
Give me an example response.
How about this? I believe in creating a classroom community where all students feel welcome, respected, and valued. I'll foster a culturally responsive environment by incorporating diverse perspectives into my curriculum, using inclusive language, and creating opportunities for students to share their cultural experiences and traditions. I'll also make an effort to build relationships with families and communities, to learn more about my students' backgrounds, and to create a learning environment that reflects their diverse experiences. For example, when teaching about genetics, I might incorporate stories and examples from different cultures to illustrate the concepts of genetic variation and inheritance. I might also invite guest speakers from different backgrounds to share their perspectives on science. And to show students the many different pathways to a career in STEM.
That's a great response.
Right.
It really showcases a deep understanding of cultural responsiveness and a commitment to inclusive and equitable learning.
Exactly.
Before we move on to our next question,
I
want to highlight a point from the career guide that I think is essential for all educators. The section about building relationships with students.
Oh, yes. Building strong relationships with students is the foundation of effective teaching.
It's about getting to know those students as individuals, understanding their strengths and challenges, and creating an environment where they feel safe, supported, and connected.
Exactly. Creating bonds of trust and respect.
And showing them that you care.
For sure.
And speaking of connections, RoleCatcher's platform connects you with a community of job seekers, career experts, and employers.
Providing you with those resources and support.
Throughout your career. The AI-powered features. Help tailor your materials. And give you feedback on your practice responses.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're down to our last two questions from the interview guide.
All right.
Ready for question number 20?
Yes, I am.
Question number 20. How would you handle a situation where a student was struggling to understand a scientific concept? This one is all about being student-centered.
It is demonstrating your ability to really identify those student learning needs, provide targeted support, and adjust your teaching strategies to ensure that all students are making progress.
So being a detective, figuring out why they are struggling,
Absolutely.
and then coming up with a plan.
A problem solver and a cheerleader.
I love that. So how do you show that in your answer?
Be specific. And humble. Share a real-life example of how you've helped a student. But acknowledge that you don't always have the answers. And sometimes it takes trial and error to find the right approach. Describe the strategies you used, the resources you drew upon, the collaboration you engaged in. And most importantly, highlight the student's growth. And the positive impact of your efforts.
What are some common mistakes that people make when answering this question?
Avoid blaming the student or making assumptions about their abilities. Acknowledge that science can be challenging.
Right.
And they may need different levels of support at different times.
So be empathetic,
Yeah,
patient, and persistent.
for sure.
I'm ready for an example response.
Yeah. All right, how about this? I believe that every student has the potential to learn and grow, and it's my job as a teacher to create a learning environment that's supportive, challenging, and engaging for all learners.
Right.
If a student is struggling to understand a scientific concept, I'll first try to identify the specific areas where they're having difficulty. I might start by asking them to explain their thinking, reviewing their work, or providing them with some extra practice problems.
Yeah.
I might also offer them different learning resources like videos, simulations, or hands-on activities to help them grasp the concept from different angles.
Okay.
And I'll always be available to answer their questions, provide one-on-one support, and celebrate their successes, no matter how small.
Right.
For example, if a student was struggling with the concept of photosynthesis, I might use a visual aid, like a diagram or a video, to help them visualize that process. I might also have them create a model of a plant cell to help them understand the structures involved in photosynthesis.
Right.
And I would check in with them regularly to monitor their progress and provide additional support as needed.
Gotcha.
Sometimes it takes a bit of creativity and persistence to find the right approach, but I believe that every student can learn and succeed with the right support.
I love that response.
Yeah.
It's truly inspiring.
Thank you.
And it shows your passion for teaching and your belief in your students.
Yeah.
We're down to our last question from the interview guide.
Okay.
Are you ready for question number 21?
Bring it on.
Question 21. How would you use technology to enhance your science teaching? So this is all about showcasing your tech skills.
It is. You got it.
And showing that you know how technology can transform the learning experience.
It's about showing that you're not just comfortable using technology.
Right.
But that you understand how to use it effectively to achieve those learning goals.
So it's not just about listing those cool tools.
Yeah.
It's about showing that you can use it thoughtfully and purposefully to engage students, differentiate instruction, provide feedback.
Absolutely.
Assess learning.
Yes.
And create that dynamic and interactive learning environment.
It's about using technology as a tool to empower students and help them become more active and engaged.
So how do you showcase those tech skills without sounding like you're reading from a catalog?
Well, you've got to focus on those specific examples.
Okay.
Talk about how you've used technology to create more engaging and effective learning experiences.
Right.
You can mention using virtual labs and simulations to bring abstract concepts to life, creating interactive presentations and multimedia projects to capture their attention, using online platforms to facilitate that collaboration and communication, or even using digital portfolios to showcase their work and track their progress.
Those are great examples.
Right.
So you're not just techie, but you're an educator.
Yes.
Who knows how to use technology.
Exactly.
Okay, ready for an example response.
All right, how about this? I believe that technology can be a really powerful tool for engaging students and deepening their understanding of science. I've used a variety of tech tools in my teaching, including virtual labs, interactive simulations, online whiteboards, and video conferencing platforms. For example, when teaching about the human body, I might use a virtual dissection tool to allow students to explore the anatomy of different organs without the need for physical specimens. This not only addresses ethical concerns, but also allows students to repeat the dissection as many times as needed to master the concepts. I might also use a digital modeling program to help students visualize complex scientific processes like cell division or the water cycle. And I would encourage students to use those multimedia tools to create presentations, videos, or other creative projects to demonstrate their learning. I'm always on the lookout for new and innovative ways to use technology to create more engaging and effective learning experiences.
That response is fantastic.
Thank you.
It really shows you understand the power of technology in the classroom.
Yes.
And you're using it to enhance student learning.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the end of our deep dive.
Into secondary school science teacher.
Interview prep.
We've covered a lot.
We've analyzed common questions and crafted compelling answers to help you showcase your skills and your passion.
For teaching.
Remember, an interview is a chance to show your best self and find the right fit for your career.
Be authentic.
Right.
Let your love of science shine.
Good luck. You've got the